Hello again, everybody, and welcome into the Take the North podcast. Dan Wiederer has the week off, and so in his place, our executive producer, also score producer, he is the one and only Adam Studzinski. He joins us for this episode of the Take the North podcast. What's going on, Studs? How you doing, baby?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. Summer is definitely here. I'm officially at the point in the year where I have to wear a white t-shirt just to walk to the L.
Yeah.
So, and then change into my real shirt. So yeah, it's great. It's awesome. And
I, yeah, I
yeah,
gotta tell you,
great.
one thing, and I know like a lot of people who are from Chicago, as I am, as a lot of people are that are listening, or like think that they'll get pissy when I say this. I don't like 90-degree temperatures. I really don't need that. And the reason people get pissed off is they're like, well, then you'll be bitching about the cold weather in January. Look, man, I've lived here my whole life. I can bitch about the 90-degree weather if I want. It's my city, okay?
I'm with you on that. I think you've earned, or I grew up in Illinois too. I'm
No,
used
I
to it.
know.
So I think we've earned the right to bitch about all the weather that we get here. I
Amen.
don't mind it. I don't mind the 90-degree heat so much. It's just annoying when you're sweating just trying to walk
Yes.
to the train. It's a little annoying. But then
Well,
I think about how annoyed I get by when it's frigid in December and I'm walking to the train. So it's just give and take, give and
yeah.
take.
Well, I'll tell you what, it kind of works out perfectly for the first thing that we're going to talk about, and that is the training camp, which has been notorious for training camps all over the country, and Illinois and Bourbonnais and all the Platteville, Lake Forest. You get those sweltering days out there in training camp, and the training camp dates are out for this season. Since last we spoke here on the Take the North podcast, the Bears will hold 12 training camp practices open to the public, and that does, as Studs and I put our heads together right before the podcast, that does include the Family Fest at Soldier Field on August 3rd. Studsley, you got the dates for the joint practices, because that's going to be some pretty badass stuff this year, as it always is.
Of course. So they have a joint practice scheduled with the Dolphins on August 8th, and the joint practice with the Bills is going to be on August 15th. I like that we get two of these this year.
I do too,
When's
man.
do you remember the last time they had two? I feel like f- since I've been living in Chicago anyway, they've
Honestly,
only ever had
there
one.
hasn't there hasn't been a ton of years where they've had one team that, then I know they've done it
Right.
like intermittently over the last several years, but yeah, man, I don't ever remember. Like, maybe it's happened, but honestly, like off the top of my head, I don't remember there having been a two-team joint practice session for the Bears.
I don't think in my memory, I don't think there has been either. I feel like under Nagy, they never had any joint practices. Like maybe once. And
Yeah.
then John Fox, they maybe
There was
had
a
one or two.
there was a
So
Miami year. There was obviously the Colts year. Trying to
right,
think of
yeah,
who I'm leaving out, but
yeah, Eberflus had the Colt under
Flus
Eberflus,
was
they
good
had
at
the
that.
crossover with the Colts. Yeah, they always had one under Eberflus. It's one of the few things I
Yeah.
thought he did well.
Yeah, he did, and yeah, you're right, you're right. I mean, he did value that, and it is valuable, because the cliche that you'll inevitably hear throughout training camp, as you do every year, is that these guys want to hit somebody else, and that they're tired of going up against each other, and it just works better when you go against a team whose intentions you don't know exactly what's going to happen, which is why training camp can be a slog. Everybody knows what everybody is going to do. But I can't wait for training camp, and we're in that gray area. But I've been pretty consistent with my message, Studs, for what I, among other things, what I simply want to see. And I'm sure Dan and I have talked about this. People get tired of hearing about it, but it is what it is. I want to just see like days stacked together, specifically for this Bears offense this year, where it's not just a play here or a play there. That when I'm doing my Bears reports on the score, and we're doing the Take the North podcast, where I got to tell everybody, yeah, it was not a great day for Caleb Williams, but he made these 2 sick throws. I want to see those sick throws on the daily for a little while, and I just want to see the offense work for a couple of days where we're up there, and Ben Johnson has already talked about the defense being ahead of the offense. So in terms of like comparing him to his predecessors, no different in that regard. So this has to be the year, Adam, where I don't care if at the end of training camp, like the defense is ahead of the offense. I need to see like days that are stacked together where convincing things happen in the offense. That has to happen starting for this Bears team in early July or late July.
And yeah, and the reality is, if I remember, I can't remember which coach it was that was talking about this. That was, and maybe it was a former Bears coach, one of the several that we have, maybe Wani or someone like that. But they basically said that, look, if your offense is ahead of your defense to start training camp, something's wrong. like that's not a good sign if your defense is ahead of your offense immediately. So I think that is not going to be concerning, and something that I expect is that the defense is going to be ahead of the offense to start things out. And of course it will be. Look, the defense is not changing. They're changing coordinators, so they're going to have a few different things, but it's largely the same scheme, it being, kind of a 4-3. The difference is they're going to be playing more man defense, but they have a lot of veterans on that defense. They're going to be ahead of the offense. So I agree with you, though. At some point, we need to be like, hey, man, this is 3 days in a row that we're hearing you or Wiederer or Leisure or whoever saying, and, I don't care about Caleb was 10 for 15. I don't really need the stats so much, but just to say, hey, yeah, it was visibly noticeable that the offense was kicking the defenses at, maybe not kicking their ass, but, at the very least, even, going like it was an even playing field for 3 days in a row. And that's not asking for too much, but that's the bare minimum that I think we can look for in this training camp. And then obviously the left tackle battle, I think everyone's going to have an eye on, because you remember a couple months ago, Ben Johnson saying that they want to have those front five set pretty much going into camp.
No doubt.
So my question is, if Braxton Jones isn't healthy to start camp, and let's say Ozzie Trapillo is getting most of the reps, does that mean he's the starting left tackle? I mean, do they allow Braxton Jones to earn that spot back if let's say Ozzie looks fine, maybe not good, but fine? Do they allow Braxton Jones to come in and battle him 2 weeks into camp? Or do they let this ride out? I'm curious to see how that plays out.
No, that's a great question, and it's an interesting distinction that you're making, because I want to get really specific on this. If you said if Trapillo is fine, I think is the way you put it.
Right.
Like, is he fine? Is fine the bar for enough? Is that enough? If we see fine from Ozzie Trapillo, and I'm kind of trying to go through it in my head right now too. My initial response is yes. Trapillo would probably, like, if Braxton Jones is still hurt and he's not ready to go, and it, as you said, as it lingers, I do think that if Trapillo looks representative, if he
maybe
looks
that's a better word,
fine, as you said, no, these are all words. I mean, I'm just sort of stacking words at this point in terms of the synonyms that we could use to justify something like that. But I do think that would be the case. My gut right now, at this point, as we're doing this podcast in late June, is that if Braxton Jones is healthy and good to go out of the chute, that he probably will get the first bite of the apple at the left tackle spot for the Bears this year.
That's what
like, you know what I mean? Like, you just can't assume that this guy will be like, Trapillo's the truth. And I think that a second rounder should be starting for you eventually on the team. But the idea that just immediately in this year, in this highly important year in the development of Caleb Williams, that you would put Trapillo in unless he is just a straight A student that totally understands or feels comfortable at left tackle because of all the work that he had done at right tackle in college.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think if Braxton Jones is 90%, is good to go. We'll just say good to go. Is a thumbs up for practice. I think he's your starter.
Probably.
Yeah, I think he gets just slotted in there because of his experience and because we know what he is. We know that at the bare minimum, Braxton Jones is a starting left tackle. He's not great. He's I think we know at this point he's not ever going to be great, but his ceiling is good and his floor is serviceable, right?
You know what he is? You know what he is, Studs? The word that you used. he's fine. He's
He's fine.
fine.
He's fine. He's
Right.
fine.
Right.
And I
Yes.
know that eventually you want to be more than fine, which is the idea with either, that's the idea of drafting Ozzy Trapillo and having Karan Amagaji around. But for this year, if you know that Braxton Jones going into camp is you know what he is and you want to slot him in there, and unless for whatever reason Braxton Jones is just blowing people away, both literally and figuratively,
Yeah.
and they say, okay, go get him, kid. But I don't necessarily think that's going to happen.
You know what? Interesting too, low key that I think you brought it up earlier too, that Trapillo is a guy who is, and I think we've talked about this on the podcast in terms of can he pick it up quickly? This
Mhm.
guy is like you've heard him talk. I mean, he seems like a pretty super smart guy, and like trust me, I'm not just saying that. A lot of offensive linemen are pretty smart, kind of brainy guys. He really seems to be an earnest student. So like I would not count out the pop. Like I'm still predicting Braxton Jones, but I would not completely leave out the possibility that Trapillo could pick it up just because of what we've seen. But that might be jumping the gun a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love everything I've heard from him. I haven't been up there to physically see him. I'm relying on what you and Dan and
Yeah,
other Bears reporters have said. And obviously they haven't had pads on, so I think it's really hard to tell anything about your offensive line until they get pads on. So,
yeah,
I do think though that the fact that he said he was even in college, his last couple of years at Boston College, when he was saying that he was still getting work on his left tackle technique, knowing that in the NFL he might be asked to play left
I love
tackle.
that.
So that
Yeah,
made me feel like he's not as far behind
right.
as a left tackle prospect as we maybe initially believed he would be. Because there was
Yeah,
the big knock was, okay, why are they drafting a guy that really only played right tackle the last 2 years after being moved there? And I think there's a lot of nuance about why he was moved there. It wasn't performance; it was because they felt it was better for their team, right? And so, who knows what happens if he just plays left tackle his whole career. But anyway, I think that after hearing all that, I was a lot more optimistic about him being a left tackle moving forward. I just yeah, agree until we see him out there in pads moving people around. I think that it's probably going to be Braxton Jones.
The other thing, and you kind of mentioned it, alluded to it in terms of the defense and what Dennis Allen is doing, and how you made the distinction in the 4-3 defense, and what his
Mhm.
version of it is for going into the season. I can't wait to see how it plays out with doing more man to man.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
specifically for Jaylen Johnson this year, I'm still fascinated. We haven't talked about this much since the news sort of came out. I think it was when we did our live show with the idea that Kyler Gordon could be playing more on the outside this year. Maybe he drops back to playing some safety as well. Like, just the different dances and you're right, just a different version of the 4-3 defense, but his dance, his version of it will be different, and it'll give us something to see that I think every Bears fan has been wanting, and that is specifically to see Jaylen Johnson stick on one guy and play that man-to-man coverage.
Yeah, that's something that Jalen Johnson has been wanting to do uh, for 4 years, right? Like basically since he
Yes.
was a rookie. I remember one time, I can't remember which year this was, maybe 2021. I remember they had him shadowing Devonte Adams, and he held his own. And that was Devonte Adams with Aaron Rodgers against the Packers, still very much in their. It was one of Aaron Rodgers' MVP years. So it, and he more than held his own. He looked he didn't get embarrassed, that's for sure. And so that I think that he locked on to a team's number one wide receiver when there is a guy like that. I think is going to be something to watch every week. I mean, he's worth watching every week anyway, just because of the way that he so thoroughly locks down his side of the field. But now that he's going to be asked to play more man defense, which he's really
Mhm.
good at, and he his thing is, man, his guy, you watch him the last few years, especially, his guy is just never open. I mean, never open.
Right.
He's
Right.
so rarely gets beat. And
Yeah.
it's to the point that when he does get beat, it's like a talking point, like, "Oh my god, he got beat."
Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah.
and
There was the
and
game
so
last year where he tripped,
right, yeah,
remember? And his
he
guy got
tripped
way
and
ahead of him. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, what happened?" And he's like, "Well, he tripped." So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's gonna be really fun to watch. Even in training camp, him, let's say they say one day, "All right, Jaylen, you got DJ Moore all practice. Just go cover DJ Moore," and to see how that that
Yeah.
iron sharpens iron aspect maybe of things because I think
Yeah.
that'll be really fun to watch. Or even him against Roman Dunze, who's a really good route runner. Hey, go cover Rome
Mhm.
today. So yeah, that's gonna be really fun to watch. I mean, and then the Kyler Gordon thing playing safety thing, I think is gonna be and like that could be fun if they and I don't know how they're gonna do that. Maybe
Yeah, we'll see, let's see what
yeah,
they actually do,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it
and I'm sure
seems
it'll just
like
be situational kind of thing, here and there. Like maybe they move Jaquan Brisker like in a rundown or something like that. They move Jaquan Brisker down to nickel and bump Kyler Gordon back to safety. Maybe they do something like that.
yeah, I mean, the bottom line is that they're saying that what their philosophy is the Bears on Kyler Gordon is, yeah, definitely going to pay you, but guess what? We're going to need you to do a little bit more than what you've done, and that is, trust me, that is music to the ears of Kyler Gordon, who's going to get to kind of to spread out a little bit. So I'm looking forward to that. I was just thinking too, I want to say Jaylen Johnson might have shadowed Justin Jefferson. I don't remember if it was last
Yeah, he might
year
have.
that where it was he got a lot of yards, I wanna say Jefferson did, but also, like, Jaylen Johnson made a bunch of it was like a great battle. I mean, I gotta go
Oh,
back and remember.
I think you're thinking of the Eagles game a couple years ago. No, it's 3 years ago now when he was
Y
on AJ Brown.
Oh, am I
And
conflating guys? Was it
yeah,
oh,
well,
yeah,
yeah,
it was AJ Brown. You're
yeah,
right,
because
man.
AJ Brown
Yes.
ended up with like 100 some yards and I think
But
a
the numbers didn't
touchdown.
really tell this like, he like,
Yeah,
Jalen
and
Johnson
then
might have had his best day that
yeah,
you know what I
and
mean, in that
because I
game,
remember,
yeah.
like, when watching it at home and, like, AJ Brown had, like, 2 long catches, but
That's
both
it.
of them were just, like, in the bucket, like, nothing you could do about it, on the sideline, perfect pass from Jalen Hurts, and Jaylen Johnson is right there, nothing you can do about it, but, yeah, they had a really good battle, and then the numbers made it look like, "Oh, AJ Brown got the best of him," but really, you're like, "Oh, no, they actually had a pretty good game against each other." So, yeah, I think it
Great
was AJ
memory
Brown.
by you. That's
Yeah,
the good call, man. Yeah, you're
because I
absolutely right.
the
That's
reason
absolutely the game. Yep.
that stuck in my head is because on our post game pod that day for Take the North, this was predates you. This was when David Haugh was still with us. I gave Jaylen Johnson my game ball. This is back. This is back when because that season we were
Ah.
doing game balls even in losses. So this is before we came up with that rule. But I gave Jaylen Johnson my game ball, and Wiederer pushed back on me. He's like, "Oh, with this many yards, there's no way. There's no way." I'm like, "Dan, go watch the tape." And he
Yeah.
did. And he came back the next day. He's like, "Yeah, you were right." So,
I was gonna say I respectfully disagree with Mr. Wiederer, and he and I are on the
yeah.
same page
Well,
often, but
that one
uh,
I will say I had the benefit of watching from home, so I had the replays and stuff, and Dan and you guys are in the press box,
yes,
so
yes,
didn't have the same views that I did. It was
right.
the big difference. So yeah,
Yeah. No, I did.
As soon as Dan saw the tape, he was like, "Yeah, yeah, you're right."
Yep. No, I mean, no doubt. I mean, gave up some big plays, but made a ton of like all-star plays in that game. Studs, I want to give you an opportunity here. Again, like
Okay.
you're in for Weedsy here today. Adam Studzinski, big Bears fan, P1 Bears fan, all that good kind of good stuff. And I like to allow the luxury to people who are kind of paying attention from a distance and they're hearing things a lot that's going on. I understand that you're a little bothered by some of the Detroitness that Ben Johnson brings to the Bears, or maybe that the media projects or that fans project. Do tell us what has you in conundrum.
Well, so it's just something that I want to make sure we keep straight as we have the conversation about what the Bears offense could be or could look like this year. I keep hearing about DJ Moore in an Amon-Ra St. Brown type role. Colston Loveland is going to be the oh my god, I just blanked on the tight end's name
Matt,
for Detroit.
Matt. Now I'm forgetting too.
Oh, well, that's
Not Matt.
unfortunate. It's not Matt. I know it's not Matt.
Wait a minute.
Well,
Wait a
anyway,
minute.
it'll come to me. Or even who's gonna be the Jameer Gibbs, or who's gonna be the Devontae, excuse me, David Montgomery role. And so uh, I need everyone to remind everyone of what Ben Johnson said in his introductory press conference about what they're gonna build in Chicago.
There's no doubt Caleb played a large component into my decision. He is a phenomenal talent that had, as many quarterbacks do, an up and down rookie year. Where I see my role is as a supporter of him. This offense will be calibrated with him in mind. We're going to build this thing. This is not simply a dropping of a previous playbook down on the table and starting there. Nope. We're ripping this thing down to the studs, and we're going to build it up with him first and foremost, and then with the pieces around him next. I really look forward to challenging him and pushing him, as I said before, to continue to grow and develop.
So, tearing it down to the studs, we're not bringing the Detroit Lions playbook here. We do not. Sam Laporta is the Lions tight end, by the way. I don't know how both of us blanked on that. Didn't you hate when that happens, when one person blanks?
Totally.
It's such an obvious name. So anyway, we don't need to be
Matt?
looking.
It's not Matt, huh? Sam?
Yeah, it's
Matt?
not Matt.
Al?
I don't know where Matt Patricia was the old Lions
Laporta.
coach.
That's an all-timer right there.
Anyway, yeah. Pull that one for something.
Yeah, no, don't.
No. Dump him.
Yes.
So,
yes.
All right. Anyway, as I was saying, they're tearing it down to the studs. They're not bringing the Detroit Lions playbook here. We don't need, I can't stand hearing Colston Loveland's going to be the Sam Laporta of this offense. No, Colston Loveland's going to be Colston Loveland. That's he's going to be the Colston Loveland of this. And actually, I would argue that coming into the NFL, Colston Loveland is already a better route runner than Sam Laporta was coming into the NFL. So, and then you add in a guy like Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet is there's no comp for him in Detroit's offense the last few years. But Cole Kmet is a good tight end. You don't think that Ben Johnson's going to find a way to use a guy like Cole Kmet? Of course he will. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, none of them are Amon-Ra St. Brown. And we shouldn't ask them to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, DJ Moore is a really good receiver. I'm not saying that none of them can be that level of receiver. But DJ Moore is not going to be in an Amon-Ra St. Brown role. Luther Burden III is not going to be in a Jameson Williams type role. They're going to be Luther Burden, and they're going to be DJ Moore. How I imagine them using a guy like DJ Moore is not so much the deep route running, like the post routes, the go routes, or the corner routes. Run short routes and get the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
That's how they're going to use DJ Moore, because he is awesome with the ball in his hands. So that's just a small example of something that now Detroit did have concepts like that, quick throws, get the ball in their playmakers' hands. So don't get me wrong, that type of concept is going to transfer, but they're not going to be like, oh, this is Amon-Ra St. Brown and this stuff. I can't stand it. It's been bugging me for months. People keep saying that, this guy is going to be this guy is going to be that guy, this guy is going to be, or even the one I've heard most recently is Roschon Johnson's going to be Jamal Williams. You remember a couple years ago, Jamal Williams had a really big year when the Lions caught fire after they started 0-6. No, that's not what they're going to do. And maybe Roschon Johnson ends up with a bunch of touchdowns like Jamal Williams did, but that doesn't mean that they're running the same type of offense. So I need to make sure we keep our heads around the fact that this is a brand new offense. They're not going to bring the plays that might end up looking similar and all that, but the way that they use their guys here, the weapons here, are going to be different than what they did in Detroit because they're different players. And Ben Johnson's smart enough, and he's told us multiple times that we're not running Detroit's offense here.
Yes. And that is the key to everything that you just said right there, Adam. And that is the fact that as long as Ben Johnson is not doing this, I can make it as easy as you're this guy from Detroit, you're that guy from Detroit. As long as he's not doing it, as long as he truly and earnestly is looking at each individual and what they can bring for you or what they are not capable of bringing for you. And, I think the DJ Moore thing is spot on. Believe it or not, the Bears coaching staff figured it out, I don't know, about 9 games into the season last year to just get the damn ball to DJ Moore. Short passes are fine. Hand the ball off to him. There were a few times where they go ahead, do your work. That's how you get the best out of DJ Moore. And luckily, we are in a situation now where I trust, Adam, that Ben Johnson knows that, and it's not going to necessarily take him 9 games to figure out what to do with DJ Moore.
And yeah, it's such an obvious thing that maybe I don't know why it took them so long last year to figure it. DJ Moore needs to have his hands on the football 10 times a game at least.
Yes.
Minimum. And that's like the bare minimum.
Right.
And there's going to be sometimes it doesn't happen and that's fine as long as the other guys are producing. But even then, like you need to have every week talk about this all the time. Every coach has a little section on their play sheet. This guy gets the ball, that guy gets the ball, this guy gets the ball. There needs to be 20 plays and you're going to run 10 of them every week. DJ Moore gets the ball. And however he does it, whether he's the primary target on the route tree, whether it's a screen pass, or like you said, hand him the damn ball if you have to, on a reverse, whatever. Just get the ball in his hands. So I expect a lot of that this year. Especially early on, because that's something I think you can easily build in to this offense early on, is just get DJ Moore the ball.
Especially not just early on in the season, but literally early in the game where Caleb has had some mighty awful moments on the first drive. Get him the ball.
Yeah, that's got let's just say, you know what? Week 1 against the Vikings, DJ Moore's getting 15 touches this week. We're gonna keep it simple. He's the best player. He still is the best player on their offense.
Amen to that.
I would say so.
I agree. No, I agree. That's a great question. I mean, like, who is the best player? It's DJ Moore still until further notice, and that's not a bad thing because DJ Moore's a really good player. Couple more things before we get out of here. Number 1, Caleb Williams was at the Fanatics Fest that we were talking about off of the air before this podcast began today, Studs. Do we have some Caleb Williams from the Fanatics Festival?
Right, we do. And just for the record, this is something I had never heard of until a week ago. I don't know if it was brand new, but it started popping up.
That's why I'm letting you set this up. We have Caleb at some festival.
Yeah, we do. We do. So he was on stage with the Manning brothers and a couple other guys. I can't remember who else, but the Manning brothers were up there for sure. And Fanatics Fest, by the way, according to their website, it's a celebration of fans who make sports what it is. So
that's what it is. That's what
fans,
it is.
It's Fanatics Fest. So it's exactly what it sounds like. So anyway, Caleb's up on stage, and they asked him a little bit about Ben Johnson. This is what he had to say.
Johnson's great, and it's not just Ben Johnson. We have a young staff / old staff. We have a bunch of experience, a bunch of new energy, provided from the coaches and players and things like that. So, I think it's been awesome. Ben Johnson, he uses some choice words every day towards me, but he's tough, and I love him. He's awesome. It's been great being around him. We hang out in his office, and we just, we have lunch sometimes and things like that. We just, building this bond and relationship to be able to, last a while.
Is this the relationship that never occurred with Ben Johnson's predecessor, or at least the one that they were trying to convince us that was occurring with those two? Well, I mean, at least this coach and that quarterback are having lunch together. That's nice.
Yeah, that's good. That's what you want to hear, right?
Yes.
Everything seems to be going swimmingly. Ben Johnson's getting on Caleb about stuff, but it's what he asked for, and he's embracing it. So that's good. It makes me think, Caleb sounds, how happy does he have to be right now? Right?
Oh, yeah.
He's got to be just like, oh, this is exactly what I wanted. Like, this is what I was asking for all of last season. It's got to be refreshing, and it's got to feel good. Now, there's probably already been frustrating moments where Ben Johnson's yelling at him like, hey, one instance we heard about in OTAs where Ben was getting on him because he didn't get to the check down fast enough. He's like, hey, good job getting to the check down, but needs to be faster. Needs to be much faster, right? That stuff like that. So as long as there's an understanding underneath that, look, Ben Johnson's trying to help you get better. And I think that Caleb gets that. and embraces that like we heard even before training camp started last year from guys like his personal quarterbacks coach about how he wants to be coached hard.
Yeah.
He welcomes that. So
Right.
this little clip just reinforced that, look, he's getting exactly what he asked for. And I think that it's good. I think that's and it's good that they're working this, eating lunch together. Like, yeah, we never heard about Caleb eating lunch with Matt Eberflus. Maybe we saw them watching film together on Hard Knocks, but
Yeah. Swears at
we
me
never
all
heard of
day,
that.
but then we order Subway. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it's everything's going great. We watch film, it's just that it made me think that, and the reason I think that there's actually something to that. It's like, well, of course, I'm sure that Caleb had lunch at some points with Matt Eberflus, but it's like it makes me feel like, hey, they're sitting in there watching film and they're having such a good time, like talking about this stuff. Like, oh, it's lunchtime. Let's get some lunch, and then they keep talking. Like, I think that's like shows that there's a good budding relationship.
Get rid of the effing ball. Yeah, you want some Jimmy John's, Al? Come on over here. Let's have a little talk.
What do you want for lunch today?
Was there an ex-Bears quarterback that was talking about Caleb Williams or something?
There was. So
there was. Oh, conveniently enough.
I found this interview that Rex Grossman did with, and this is so random. It's from cardplayer.com.
Okay.
And I'll tell you real quick how I came across this, because it was one of those things where the internet just kind of feeds you something. I found this initially a quote in a post by Bleacher Nation Bears, which I'm sure you know. It's a blog, right? Basically a fan blog about the Bears. Yeah. And they had an excerpt from this that was linked back to Windy City Gridiron, a different blog about it. And I'm like, well, that's still not what I'm still looking for the full interview. They just had a couple quotes, and they pointed out that it was on this website, cardplayer.com. So I had to go through it was like Inception. I had to go through 3 levels to get to this.
Nice work, kid. You're having a good day, man.
Yeah. So thank you. So anyway, it's a fun little interview, and there's just a couple quotes in here that I wanted to bring forth. And unfortunately, there's no audio. It's just a transcript of an interview. But they, of course, asked Rex about Caleb Williams, and so this was the first when they asked about him, what he thought of Caleb Williams' rookie campaign, and Rex answered with this quote: "I think he's pretty athletic, had a great arm, accurate. I think he's trying to figure out being on time. That's the only issue. Obviously, he was hurried quite a bit, but I think he's pretty darn good. If he can go and play on schedule within the offense, and then when things break down, he's going to be a superstar because he's so athletic and shifty." And he goes on to say, basically, if they can get him to play a little more like Jared Goff while having these other gifts, then he's going to be pretty good. So that was nice to hear. And he, I think that Rex there echoed a lot of the things that we've been saying. Right. Yeah.
And I think that's fair too, because nobody wants him to be Jared Goff, but the idea of being, in some ways, take what Jared Goff learned in theory from Ben Johnson, implement some of that, but then, as Rex Grossman said there, be your superstar potential self when the play breaks down, or if you are just given the choice of using your legs and arms at the same time, as Caleb Williams is wont to do in terms of breaking out of the pocket.
So Rex goes on a couple questions later to be asked about. This is the question. There's all the talk that they being the Bears, they've never had a 4,000-yard passer. Do you think going to the Bears as a quarterback could be a negative? And so this is how Rex answered that. Excuse me. Quote: "Some organizations, more so than others, have an identity. For a long time, Chicago, because of the wind, the cold, the style of passing success, had kind of been built around the defense. Very much, we're going to build our team off January playoff football, not in a dome with the greatest show on turf and throwing the ball all over the place. It's a little bit of bad quarterback play. It's a little bit of organizational identity. In 2025, they're going to start throwing the ball." And Rex goes on to say here, I did have some big... He talks a little bit about the 2006 season. We don't need that. So at the end, Rex says, quote, I think they will have a balanced offense, and he'll be around 4,200 or 4,300 yards this year. So there you go. Rex Grossman, former
Wow.
Bears quarterback, predicts Caleb Williams gets to 4,000 yards this
How
year
about
for the
that? I
first
didn't
first
realize.
Bears quarterback ever.
I didn't know Rex Grossman cared. I really didn't. That's good to hear, man. And he's got the right idea of a little dash of this, a little dash of that, and Caleb Williams could be better, but that is fascinating from him.
Yeah, and there
Rexy Rexy.
yeah, yeah, I and what's interesting to me because we never hear from Rex like ever.
I
He's one of
know.
those
That's why
guys.
yeah.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I think when he retired, he just was gone, right? It kind of like Kyle Orton too. Kyle Orton is just off hunting or
Mhm.
something somewhere. I remember we had him on the Bears pregame show on 670 The Score a couple years ago, and talking to like Owen or Patrick Manley tracked him down, but he's just off the grid doing his thing. And so yeah, I thought it was really cool to hear from Rex. And they asked him a little bit about the Seth Wickersham stuff
Mm.
and basically saying like, do you worry about the fans turning on Caleb? And he long-winded answer, but he basically said no, because the Bears fans really embrace you. And
Yeah.
so he's not worried about the fans. He obviously says you got to control what you can control as a quarterback, but he basically says the fans will embrace you, especially if you're playing well. They'll
Yeah, and I'm
so
serious too. Like, I mean, it is fascinating to hear from him, just because I did not think he cared, and as what you're saying, like I thought he was like, on the overall, maybe Rex Grossman does not look fondly back on his Bears days, but I think he accepts it for what it was. Some really nice moments for Rex Grossman, but not overly satisfying in the end, I suppose.
yeah, I actually feel bad about being so mad at Rex Grossman after like the Super Bowl, because when I'm 16 years old living in Petersburg, Illinois, you don't really know. Like, I don't watch the press conferences back then. I didn't really know anything
Right.
about Rex
Don't
other than
care
his
how the
play.
sausage is made. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then I grow up and I talk to people that covered him. They're like, "Man, he's so nice." and and so I kind of feel and he's not one of those guys that didn't care. Like, he obviously like played his ass
Yes.
off. He had a couple unfortunate moments, but
And he wasn't like a
uh
joke of a player. Like, he was not a
yeah.
bad player, but it again, relative to first round expectations, where it looked like things were going at that time, it was a disappointment.
Well, yeah, even in the 2006 season, he just never consistently got it all together. He's
Right.
player of the month in September in 2006, and then was kind of really up and down the rest of the regular season. Had a couple good games in the playoffs, and
Yep.
then had a bad Super
Injuries.
Bowl.
Yep.
Yeah.
Injuries, which
But yeah,
allowed us
was
to.
injured
It
in
was that
almost
year
all
that he was
2005.
honestly, no joke. Was it the Super Bowl year that he was having, or maybe the year before, that he was having an MVP season? Honestly, God, in the first half
Oh,
of
yeah,
the
yeah,
year.
that was the 2006 season. He was
Yeah, got hurt.
NFC Player of the Month in
Yeah,
September. No, he didn't get
there he
hurt
was.
that year. It
Yeah.
was 2005 he got hurt before the season. 2006
Okay.
he was healthy the whole year.
Because I'm trying to
And
think of the game where he came back on the primetime game against
oh,
Atlanta.
that was 2005. That was
Okay, so
2005.
that was the year he got hurt, and we all got to know Kyle Orton after
Yeah,
that. But the
yeah.
second Rex Grossman was good to go, they're like, "Get your bearded ass out of here and put Rex
Yeah,
Grossman
because
back in."
that team, that 2005 team, man, they don't get talked about enough. They won 8 games in a row with no offense. I
Mm,
mean, no offense. If you go back and you look at that 8-game winning streak, the defensive numbers were video game numbers. They were allowing like 15 points a game. And like, I think they
yeah,
gave up during that stretch. I don't think they ever gave up more than 20 points. Like, maybe once they did. And the
right.
offense was averaging like 17 points.
That's
It was
that's
just,
the prime of Urlacher and Lance Briggs and Mike Brown and Charles
oh
Tillman,
yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that group, young in that group.
Yeah, well, that was it was the year Urlacher won the defensive player of the year, right?
Right?
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I guess
it was
yeah, that
yeah.
was his best
So
year.
Yeah, it was just
One
that
of them,
that I mean, that defense doesn't get talked about that particular year. Like the 2006 defense got a lot of notoriety because of how good the team was, and they went to the Super Bowl. The 2005 defense was better. Like they were really good, and they don't
yeah,
get the notoriety because they lost in the first round of the playoffs, and
right.
so,
No, that's a good call.
So yeah. That was a nice trip down memory lane.
Yeah. Studs, this has been an absolute pleasure. Is there anything else that you feel like you need to get off of your chest before we get the heck out of here for another episode of the old Take the North podcast?
I don't think so. I
Are we
think we're
clear? You had a good
I think
show.
we're
I
good.
enjoyed it. This is good
Oh,
stuff. Your
thank you.
memory was
Thank you.
sharp. The only bad moment we had was Sam Laporta. But
Yeah,
we
Sam
got
Laporta.
there.
Sam Laporta. Yeah, that was so
man.
weird because if you're like me, you kind of like think about how you're going to articulate things,
Of
right?
course.
So
Yeah.
I thought about this earlier today, and I just
you
Sam
couldn't-
Laporta. The name was in my right there, and then of course it comes into the moment, and I can't remember the damn name.
And then the guy doing the podcast with you can't help you out
Yeah.
either. So
Yeah.
it was a
Well,
bad
it's
moment.
just it's a popular. Everyone knows who Sam Laporta is. I've had
Of
him on my
course.
fantasy teams before. It's not like I don't know who the guy is. He's a really good tight end.
I feel pretty good that the audience knows that you know who he was, and we both just completely spaced out as we record late in the day on a Friday here. I've already done 4 hours of radio today.
Yeah, exactly. I don't
but
have an excuse.
yeah, right. You're just getting cooking. This has been fun. So for that guy, Adam Studzinski, the Take the North podcast, the executive producer of Take the North podcast. I think I just muted myself, so I want to make sure I got that in. Also for our guy, Dan Wiederer, who will return on the next episode. This is the time to take your time off. So Weedsy is doing that. I'm going to do that eventually as well. I am Mark Grote. Thank you for listening to and watching the Take the North podcast.
Great talk. See you out there.